It's been 2 years since Rochester police officers Mark Vaughn, Troy Talladay, Paul Ricotta, Francisco Santiago, Andrew Spexgore, Josiah Harris, Michael McGrath killed my brother Daniel Prude. On the evening of March 23rd, 2020, I called 911 for help, looking for my brother and making sure he was safe. I knew he was experiencing a mental health crisis and I didn't know how to help him. When police arrived at my house, I remember wondering whether my wife and me made a right decision by calling 911 for help. Consumed by fear and worry, I asked, please don't kill my brother. He means no harm. I still wonder what would have happened if, when I called for help, a mental health counselor, a social worker, or someone who knew what it's like to struggle with mental illness would have responded. I can't help but wonder what my life would have been today if Daniel was still here. Daniel was my little brother and my best friend. He planned on moving to Rochester to create a new life and have a fresh start. Daniel's struggles with his mental health made him more empathetic, kind, and loving. He always found a way to lift people up and support our family because he knew people might be struggling behind closed doors. Daniel was the glue of our family. He got along with everyone, loved dancing, singing, grilling, and telling jokes that kept us all laughing. He was deeply loved and a joy to be around. He yearned for a peaceful, comfortable life with friends and family, but Rochester law enforcement took that from us. Daniel's murder completely changed my life and that of my family's. Our home is filled with pictures and memories of him. Our home was the last place we saw him alive and the last place he shared his hopes and dreams of a better life. The large memorial of him outside of my home reminds us that he also changed the lives of Rochester community and many of the communities around the state. Daniel murders drew attention to the issues of policing, mental health, institutional racism, and issues of corrupt in our city, state, and entire country. He mobilized and united people from all walks of life to come out, organize, and change the way we respond to mental health crises. Months after news came out of his killing, I saw communities across New York State organized to remove policing as the default response to mental health crisis in our community. These efforts recognize that when our friends, family, and neighbors are experiencing a mental health crisis, they deserve to be treated with compassion, care, and understanding, not police and the threat of incarceration. 2 years later, I fear that communities are sliding back into previous structures that exposes people who need help and support to the violence of policing. In Rochester, our person and crisis team failed to build adequate infrastructure to expand and replace police with mental health workers. They reverted to a co-response model in which police officers is usually the first to arrive on the scene despite community members call for counselors and social workers. We recently heard President Joe Biden recklessly call for more funding for police officers. This came without mention of the popular and growing movement calling for investments in resources like housing, mental health care, education, things that actually keep communities safe. If we want to prevent deaths like Daniel's from happening to other family or community, we can't continue to rely on law enforcement to help people in crisis. We know that most people who become victims of police violence are our most vulnerable people with mental health crises and substance abuse use diagnosis, people with disabilities, people without homes, and low-income people. We can never forget what happened in Rochester on March 23rd, 2 years ago. I will always remember my baby's brother's smile and the warmth he brought to our family. I pray that my brother's death was not in vain and that we continue to fight to make sure that people get the help they need. Illnesses doesn't become a death sentence like it did my brother.